All right, we're back for the rest of the week. Welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We begin with some news from Provo, Utah, where alleged Charlie Kirk killer Tyler Robinson made his first appearance in court today, where he was actually caught smiling and smirking during the proceedings for some weird reason. The judge ruling today that cameras will, in fact, be allowed in the courtroom during the trial. So I'll probably tune into that. Also, the Indiana State Senate actually failed to pass a congressional redistricting bill. They literally voted against themselves in an overwhelming vote, 19-31. Where 21 Republicans joined Democrats to oppose redistricting against themselves. Had it been approved, Republicans would have picked up 2 seats in the House. Thanks, guys. And there's a push to audit the Epstein files to make sure they weren't tampered with. The government is required, by the way, to release those files by law in 8 days. But first, Republicans are worried about voter turnout in the midterms. I mean, maybe you should just start doing what you said you were going to do. Let's do this. You want to know why and what the problem is here? You want to know why our elections are even remotely a close contest between Republicans and Democrats? Because Republicans run on the principles of their base and then govern to appease the moderates. And Democrats run on whatever their base wants and then they govern on whatever their base wants. Let me show you. This is the Democrat base, the party that calls for civility. They're out harassing Kristi Noem leaving the hearing today. A bunch of unemployed, screeching, whiny liberals that are so full of hate that they will literally stand in a hallway for hours in a federal building to just get a 5-second opportunity to tell some Trump cabinet member that they hope they die. And what do their reps do? Parrot their base.
But you have systematically dismantled the Department of Homeland Security, put your own interests above the department, and violated the law. You are making America less safe. So rather than sitting here and wasting your time and ours with more corruption, lies, and lawlessness, I call on you to resign.
Oh, yeah, sure. The opposing party just wants me to resign. Yeah, let me get right on. No. I mean, absolutely no. And the allegation that she broke the law, like, what did you libs do for the last 4 years? You had the Ministry of Truth with Nina Jankowicz in between off-tune Broadway knockoffs, literally running a department on censorship of the American people that the Biden administration didn't agree with. You put Americans that you didn't like on government watch lists. You don't even get me started on the surveillance that you conducted, letting criminals out of the streets, open borders. You libs made America less safe by literally every metric available. And the same guys who are worried about how safe our streets are.
Reference the unfortunate accident that occurred with the National Guardsman being killed.
You think that was an unfortunate accident?
I mean,
it was a terrorist attack.
Wait. Look, I'll get it straight. Then you can
He shot our National Guardsman in the head.
Look, Mr. Chairman, will you direct the witness to allow me to ask my question?
Yeah. I mean, go ahead and ask that question, buddy. I mean, you can't even admit a terrorist act. You can't even admit something of what it is. A congressman so loyal to his base that he won't even admit a terrorist attack, but an Afghan refugee brought here under Joe Biden who shot 2 National Guardsmen in broad daylight, killing one and another one still in the hospital. You're calling that an unfortunate accident? I love how the left comes back on this one, too. Oh, this guy was allowed to stay under Trump. Yeah, that is true. His asylum visa was, in fact, approved in April. That was applied for under Biden. But my response is like, oh, okay, I'm glad you agree this is bad. Let's just get rid of all these people. And then the libs who are using this to attack Trump in the same breath say, oh, you can't do that. We just need to vet them. Well, now you want to vet them? They're already here. And if we did try to vet these people, half these people have zero paperwork from a lifetime in Afghanistan, Somalia, Chad, Sudan, Nigeria, Syria, Timbuktuistan, whatever. Most of these people, they don't even have anything to vet against. They don't even have shoes before they get here, and then they get here, and then they go on our government programs, and we give them all kinds of free stuff like, I don't know, 90% of the Somalians that are currently here. And the up-and-coming guy, this guy, I actually want to elevate him in the Democrat Party. This guy, and forgive my pronunciation, Shara Tana Thanadar, or whatever, presented without comment.
Madam Secretary, your incompetence and your inability to truthfully carry out your duties of Secretary of Homeland Security. If you're not fired, will you resign?
Sir, I will consider your asking me to resign as an endorsement of my work.
This guy was the one who just filed articles of impeachment against Pete Hegseth, too.
Secretary Hegseth has disgraced that once proud office that he holds. His actions are not just reprehensible, but illegal as well.
I don't actually know what that guy said, the U.S. congressman that I couldn't understand, but presumably, again, doing exactly what his base wants. And it's like marching orders from the Purple Hair Brigade. They just shriek and Democrats jump. Remember this woman?
You will see darkness, you will be pushed, and our society needs you to stand together at this time. Our country loves you. To our doctors and our nurses, I wear these latex
The gentlelady's
gloves
time
to
has
tell
expired.
every
The
American
gentleman
to not
from Maryland
be
is recognized.
afraid.
I apologize for the Prozac ad right now, but that woman is filing articles of impeachment against RFK for not following the science. I mean, she's part of the same group that gave us this ridiculous, where they were playing their flutes through masks. This is like a bunch of B-rate villains that didn't make the cut for a script of Austin Powers. But this is how Democrats hold on to their seats, because they appease their base and Republicans don't. Trump's out there just trying to do whatever he can. He's just doing stuff, okay? Congress hasn't even passed a budget. Republicans are worried about, oh, get out the vote software and pass to 270 and some text message campaign. We throw our own people out of office like George Santos before he was even convicted of anything. But we don't throw out LaMonica McIver for fighting with an ICE agent on video. Republicans get elected by their base. People like me, we put the signs on our car, we donate, we go door to door. And then they get in and they bend the knee to moderates like the people in Indiana just did. While Democrats just go scorched earth, even if it costs them their seat, like it did with ACA, the Obamacare. This is why Democrats have a better turnout. And God forbid they take the House and Senate and the White House ever again. They are going to crack down on conservative social media again. There will be mass amnesty for the 20 to 30 million new voters that Trump can't deport fast enough because judges keep blocking him. I mean, who, by the way, they will vote Democrat. They're going to end the filibuster, folks. Don't fool yourself there. They're going to pack the Supreme Court, nationwide mail-in voting with no verification, where they just basically send you on an app somewhere. D.C. and Puerto Rico will probably become states. They're going to abolish the Electoral College. Who cares? Trump won the popular vote last go-around. But they're going to arrest MAGA, debank us, do whatever they can. They already put us on terror watch list for speaking at school board meetings. And they're going to do this by abolishing the filibuster day one. They will make sure that Republicans never regain power. Everyone's like, oh, this is the most important election. No, the most important election of our lifetimes from here on out is the next one, okay? And then the one after that, and then the one after that. And if Republicans don't make these things into law and get this through their head, they're going to lose. And Republicans are going to sit there in the minority scratching their head. I don't understand why we didn't have turnout. The better question is, Mike Johnson, why would we show up to vote? You haven't thrown a single person in jail. There's no accountability for COVID, and New York Dems ran the guy who literally stuffed elderly patients into retirement homes with COVID and killed people. They blocked meds that would have saved lives. They shut down schools. They forced people to get a vaccine against their will, who then got heart conditions and nothing happened. And they lied about it, coming from some dude that it was in he ate a bat in a wet market while Fauci and his cabal were killing beagles and funding the Wuhan coronavirus lab and expected us to believe that it didn't come from a lab in Wuhan named coronavirus. No one in jail for Russiagate, for censorship. Not one of the 51 former Intel officials who told us that Hunter Biden's laptop was a Russian plant. It actually does turn out that Hunter Biden was, in fact, smoking crack in bathtubs with hookers. You failed to indict Letitia James for like the third time today because you did it wrong the first time. Still haven't charged Adam Schiff for the same mortgage fraud. Looks like James Comey is probably going to get off scot-free. And the best the Republicans can do is, here's $800 million more for Ukraine. Why the hell would Republicans be excited to vote if Trump's not on the ballot? You want to keep your majority? Throw 100 people in jail for political corruption and all the corruption that Doge uncovered. None of those people are in jail. That's like low-hanging fruit. including everybody involved with the auto pen, primary, all the 21 state senators in Indiana who just voted with Democrats to oppose congressional redistricting for their own party. They essentially just gave up 2 seats. Abolish the filibuster and just start getting stuff done. Give us nationwide reciprocity. Abolish the income tax. But while you're at it, let's deep six the IRS, and then you can sell the building or drone strike it or do whatever you want so nobody can come back to it. And then you can tell the Muslims seeking refugee status to do it in the 56 surrounding Muslim countries that they have rather than here, so we don't have to pay their benefits. You do that, you'll gain seats in the House. We'll have 300-seat majority. People like me will be excited to go out and vote, because we're not right now. Because if you do that stuff, man, Mike, I'm telling you, I will legit run through a wall like the Kool-Aid dude to get to the polls. But if you don't, you'll lose. And if you need more proof, Miami just elected their first Democrat mayor in 30 years, because you're governing to the moderates and not to the people who got you elected. Former Pennsylvania Senator and senior political analyst Rick Santorum. All right, Senator, I feel like the Dems are going to just get rid of the filibuster. Why not do it?
They are going to get rid of the filibuster if they take control after Trump, and they won't get rid of it because he'll veto anything, so it really doesn't do them any advantage to get rid of it. But I agree with you, and I agree with everything you said. They will abolish the filibuster. They will pack the court. There will be D.C. statehood. Anything they can do that doesn't require a constitutional amendment, they will do. They'll pass the Lewis Voting Rights Act. So basically get rid of all state laws, federalize elections, and it will make it very hard for Republican control. But having the Republicans get rid of the filibuster first doesn't solve any of those problems.
But it will ensure that Republicans will never get power again.
But the point is, you're saying eliminate it now.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. The problem with that is, number one, Republicans won't do it. Number one, but even if they all agreed, we have like a 2 or 3 seat majority in the Senate. We probably got 5 or 6 moderate Republicans. Even if they did it, they wouldn't get very much done.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's
you
my
need to answer that?
I need to
pick it up. Pick it up. Let's see who it is.
No.
Come on, pick it up.
It's my wife. Okay, there it is. It's my wife calling me. Sorry about that. Anyway, the bottom line is that they can't get things done that you want to, because moderates won't let that happen within the Republican Party. We're a different party. Republicans are different than Democrats. They vote in lockstep.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Republicans do not vote in lockstep. So getting the filibuster out of right now and giving the Republicans power won't really mean that much. Yeah. But we set the precedent by doing so, and then Democrats will run the table. So I just think it's a bad idea. What we need to do, I got this little pin on here called Convention of States.
Yes.
And the Convention of States would, in fact, be able to pass amendments to the Constitution to limit the Supreme Court to 9 members. So we
can do whatever we want in the Convention of States.
You could do anything that would limit the power and scope of the federal government. This is something that I know we've talked about in the past.
Yeah, and it's gaining steam.
Everything that you want to accomplish can be accomplished if we have a convention where the people participate. You want to get people excited.
Yeah.
Get them excited about doing this so we can really change Washington.
Yeah, I'd be down with that, like super down with that. I want to get to the Indiana guys.
Yeah.
These jagaloons voted against their own party. I don't understand this.
I understand the numbers. I mean, I saw that number. I said, wow, 31-19. That's like, but the Republican leadership basically said, look, we need a big vote so they can't go after all of us. Yeah. And so what happened was, I think they just decided safety in numbers. We'll have 20-some Republicans all vote. They can't defeat us all. Whereas if they actually let people vote and it lost by 1 or 2 votes, then 1 or 2 people would get nailed. So I think that's what really went on here. Hoosiers are a different lot. They have this Midwestern sensibility to them that says, this is the way you do things, and we do this every 10 years, and we're just simply not going to do it different, and they got their backs up. And I think the more pressure Trump put on them, it turned out it stiffened their resolve.
All right.
But it also shows that Trump is a second-term president. And you're going to start to see more of this, I suspect, as time goes on, that Trump is not on his way out yet, but he's on his way out.
I want to get to an interesting soundbite. And this is a discussion, we talked a little bit about this before. It's something, like, I want to be clear, we're not endorsing any, political violence or anything like this, but people in the Republican Party don't feel represented anymore. And now they certainly don't feel represented by the Democrats. And I'm worried that this is going to become a broader conversation. Roll this.
When do we get to use the guns? No, and I'm not, that's not a joke. I'm not saying it like that. I mean, literally, where's the line?
Again, we're not endorsing any type of civil war yet, but if the GOP loses, you're going to have a lot more people like that. And the Republicans are refusing to speak with them. They're wondering why people like, they don't understand why people like nut jobs like Nick Fuentes are gaining 40 million viewers. Well, they should study that instead of denounce him.
Yeah, well, I specifically Fuentes, I've studied it, and there's not much there to like.
Not studying him, but why people, why does he have 40 million followers? The guy's a jerk.
He is a jerk, and there are a lot of people who are disaffected, and as you know, because you've studied it, they're almost all men. And that's a problem. And we can get into, as I'm sure you have, and I know you have on the program, what we've done to men in our society, what modern day feminism has done to emasculate men and to make them feel like they're not important in society anymore, and that masculinity is toxic, and that men aren't needed in the home, and that men aren't needed here. You know, now a majority of always, we need to fight for women's rights. A vast majority, like 60% of women, 60% of people in college are women now. The fact of the matter is, men are falling behind, and men are supposed to be the provider and protector. It's wired in our DNA. Yeah. And when we don't have that role, bad things happen. Yeah. And that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, well, we got a lot of estrogen where testosterone should be. Rick Santorum, we got to take a quick go. Let's go to President Trump, who's talking in the Oval Office right now. Listen in.
China has ever received.
And with Venezuela, now that we've seized this tanker, is the campaign against Venezuela still just about drugs, or is it now also about oil?
Well, it's about a lot of things, but one of the things it's about is the fact that they've allowed millions of people to come into our country from their prisons, from gangs, from drug dealers, and from mental institutions, probably proportionately more than anybody else. They came in from many countries. We're getting them out. We had 11,888 murderers come into our country. Many of them are from Venezuela. We had thousands of Tren de Aragua, the gang, come in from, which they say is the most violent gang. I don't know, MS-13 is pretty bad, but Tren de Aragua, they say, is the most violent gang. That comes from the prisons of Venezuela. It came out of the prisons of Venezuela. So it has to do with a lot of things. They've treated us badly, and I guess now we're not treating them so good. If you look at the drug traffic by sea is down 92%. And nobody can figure out who the 8% is, because I have no idea. Anybody getting involved in that right now is not doing well. And we'll start that on land, too. It's going to be starting on land pretty soon. Thank you, Peter.
Mr. President, in Indiana, just a few moments ago, the Senate there rejected the congressional maps to redistrict in that state. A number of Republicans voted against that redistricting effort. You have spent a lot of time talking about this. The Vice President traveled to Indiana. What's your reaction?
Well, we won every other state. That's the only state. It's funny because I won Indiana all 3 times by a landslide, and I wasn't working on it very hard. Would have been nice. I think we would have picked up 2 seats if we did that. You had one gentleman, the head of the Senate, I guess, Bray, whatever his name is. I heard he was against it. He'll probably lose his next primary, whatever that is. I hope he does, but because he's done a tremendous disservice. I mean, think of it. It's a great place. I love the people there. They love me. You know, we won in a landslide all 3 times. Got tremendous votes. I got record votes. And then there's no reason for doing that. And the Democrats do it to us, so I can't imagine that they do it. But I wasn't very much involved. But there's a man named Bray, as I guess, head of the Senate. Was that Bray? Is that the name? Bray? I mean, I'm sure that whenever his primary is, it's, I think, in 2 years, but I'm sure he'll go down. He'll go down. I'll certainly support anybody that wants to go against him.
Well, if I could ask you briefly about on AI and then a question on Ukraine. On the AI side, the flip side of what you've done today is what kind of agreements you can get with China, particularly on the national security threats posed by AI. During the Biden administration, there was a vague agreement on not using AI in the nuclear weapons complex. Tell us what you envision and what conversations you've had, if any, with President Xi on that topic.
Well, relative to AI?
Yes.
I speak to him a lot about it. I speak to him a lot, actually. I have a very good relationship with him, as you know. If you had another president, you would have had a big rare earth problem, and it turned out not to be a problem. They're purchasing tremendous amounts of the soybeans and our agricultural products now. We're getting along with them very well. No, we talk about AI quite a bit. We talk about everything quite a bit.
Well, do you have specific
One of the things
guardrails you're trying to put together with them?
One of the things I talked to China about is the denuclearization of weapons. We'd like to see if we could stop that.
Right, you mean arms control, not
I'm talking about nuclear weapons. I've spoken to China about that. I've spoken to Russia about that. And I think it would be something that we would want to do, and they would like to do, and I think Russia would like to do.
They've said they won't join New START or a follow-on to New START.
Well, that's what they've told you, but you know what they tell you is different than what they tell you.
And on Ukraine, Mr. President, just briefly, you made a commitment to the Europeans back in July, if I remember it right, to participate in some kind of a peacekeeping force should there be a peace agreement. You mentioned, I think, air support, intelligence, and so forth. Does that commitment still stand? Is the U.S. ready to go contribute to
It's
this?
called the security agreement, basically, that they call it, the
which
security
sounds like
agreement.
one of
Yeah,
the
we would
core
help. We would help with security because it's, I think, a necessary factor in getting it done. I thought that we were very close with Russia to having a deal. I thought we were very close with Ukraine to having a deal. In fact, other than President Zelensky, his people loved the concept of the deal. You know, we threw something out.
This is the four-part deal that you...
Well, there's 4 or 5 different parts. It's, you know, a little bit complicated because you're cutting up land in a certain way. It's not the easiest thing. It's sort of like a complex real estate deal times 1,000, right? But it's a deal that would have stopped the killing of thousands of lives every month. Thousands and thousands of lives, mostly soldiers, but as you know, there's some bombs
Are you
being
headed to sort of a Korea-like ceasefire there where you don't resolve?
Well, there's a meeting on Saturday. We'll see whether or not we attend the meeting. We said we'll attend the meeting if we think there's a good chance of. They want me to attend. They want us to attend, and we'll be attending the meeting on Saturday in Europe if we think there's a good chance. And we don't want to waste a lot of time. We think it's negative. We want it to get settled. We want to save a lot of lives. As you know, in the past we spent. Could be $350 billion given it to Ukraine. You know, we got nothing in return, but we gave it to Ukraine. I ended up getting rare earth in return, even though I didn't spend money. And we are now selling weapons to NATO. We're not selling it to Ukraine. We're selling weapons at full price to NATO, as you know. They distribute those weapons probably to Ukraine for the most part. They're probably doing it to others also. But we're not involved in the war other than the fact that we are involved in a negotiation because people want us there. Ukraine wants us involved very much. Europe wants us involved. I have a great relationship with the countries of Europe. As you know, I took GDP. I took what they're spending as a percentage of GDP, but it was at 2 and they weren't paying, and now it's at 5. And everybody's amazed. But that 5% is, a lot of it's coming back to the United States. With that being said, I'd like to see the killing stop. 25,000 people died last month, soldiers, mostly soldiers, but some people also where bombs were dropped. But for the most part, 25,000 soldiers died last month. I would love to see it stop. And we're working very hard. It doesn't really affect the United States unless it got out of control. You know, a thing like that, as you probably know, because you are a professional, a real professional, which is something I don't say about a lot of other people, but you are a great professional. Things like this end up in third world wars. And I told that the other day. I said, you know, everybody keeps playing games like this. You'll end up in a third world war, and we don't want to see that happen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can you confirm that you have appointed a general to lead the stabilization forces in Gaza? What will be his mission?
My man never stops. He's just on fire. Resources, foreign affairs, domestic stuff. Oh, like you can wrap this all up in like one coffee break. It's unbelievable. I want to bring in Steve Hilton, Republican California gubernatorial candidate. All right, Steve, I want to get to California and how nuts that place is in a sec, but you know, we were just talking with Rick Santorum in the break, okay? Who, by the way, is like prior to all this was a very moderate guy. Even he is turning the corner. He's like, yeah, the Republicans got to get their act together.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say, Carl, isn't it incredible? I had exactly the same reaction as you watching the president there. The incredible command he has over every aspect of policy, and he's just so on top of this job in a way I don't think we've ever seen from a
Joe
president.
Biden ran circles around everybody, remember?
Exactly. It's just amazing. It's really, really, truly, it's actually, for someone, you know, I've been in around politics and government for a while. Most of my career has been in business, but I worked in 10 Downing Street alongside the Prime Minister. I've just never seen anything like this. Someone who is so on top of every detail, with such strength and clarity on everything. I totally agree, and I loved your conversation with Rick, in particular about the Convention of States. That's something I've been the first time I heard about it many years ago, about 10 years ago, I was really all for it. I've always believed that the heart of our Constitution and what makes America great is that idea of putting power in people's hands, decentralizing power. And the federal government has got so bloated and ridiculous. And Rick is right, and you are right, that we've got to have a strong, clear message and not this wishy-washy, watered-down nonsense. That doesn't get you anywhere.
Right. I want to get over to California, okay, because, you know, you're obviously running to replace what Gavin Newsom's seat would be. And you know, like, you have a guy who doesn't even abide by his own laws there that he signed. Where, you know, what they say, you can't do all these AI political ads, and yet here's an ad of him putting up Trump and Hegseth and Stephen Miller in handcuffs. And I mean, like, this is unbelievable. He was the one who railed against this, but then, you know, Hakeem Jeffries cries when Trump makes a meme with him wearing a sombrero.
It's something to watch, actually, Newsom. I mean, I've obviously been watching for a long time here in California, but the level of lying and gaslighting we get from him now is just utterly pathological. I mean, he literally, almost everything he says, he is doing the exact opposite of what he says. Whatever it is these days is just completely extraordinary. Just the other day, there was a clip, he was talking about how, this came out yesterday, I think, we did Doge before anyone. We in California are the model of how to run a streamlined, efficient, modern government. And you think, what are you talking about? It's literally the worst in the country. I mean, the highest taxes for the worst outcomes anywhere of all 50 states.
Well, and the more money they dump, $30 million into homeless, you got more homeless. You build $50 million bridge to absolutely nowhere, $11 billion for track that never got laid on a no-speed rail.
And by the way, I'm literally speaking to you. I'm on the road in our campaign truck, and we're in the Central Valley, and literally just drove past. I mean, just a few minutes ago, one of the monuments to his incompetence, just, you know, bridges to nowhere as part of this high-speed rail with no tracks. There's another one that just came to light last week, high-speed phone line. Okay, in his first budget as governor, Gavin Newsom pledged to modernize California's antiquated emergency response phone line 911, all the rest of it. Okay, in nearly 7 years later, he spent $500 million, and they just announced last week it's going to be scrapped because it never worked. So this guy wants to be president, and he can't organize a phone line in 7 years with $500 million. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Steve Hilton, we got to leave it right there, my man. Good luck in California. I don't know why you just don't leave, but you're a fighter. All right.
Thank you, Carl. Good to see you.
Let's get back to President Trump in the Oval Office. He's still crushing people.
They're not trying, but I don't think they want to try. And I can tell you that they would love to be able to make a deal with me. They would love to be able to make a deal with me. And I'd love to make a deal with them if we could. You know, we were not close, but not so close, but we were reasonably there for a deal with Iran before the bombing, and they would have been much better off if they made a deal. They could have had a deal. They could have had a deal where they would have been much better off. Look at what we've done. I mean, their place is blown up. Forget about the nuclear. The nuclear is gone, but look at the damage they've suffered, the death that they've suffered. They could have had a deal with nobody would have died, no buildings would have been down, nothing would have happened. We would have blown up their nuclear. That would have been it. They could have had a great deal, but they missed that opportunity. But they would like to make a deal right now. Iran would like to make a deal with me.
Mr. President.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Do you think the Senate should confirm your nominee for Religious Freedom Ambassador, Mark Walker, in time for Christmas as, you know, a Christmas gift to Christians around the world?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've heard good things about Mark. Why is something come up that I don't know about?
Well, he was nominated in April, and he still hasn't received even a.
Well, I'd like to see him. I mean, I'm hearing very good things about him. So I thought by asking that question, something new came up. There's breaking news about Mark Walker. Yeah, I'd like to see him. I've always found him to be a high quality person. Yeah, I'd like to see that happen. I will say John Thune, though, has done a good job. He's approved. He's gotten hundreds of people approved. We have a roadblock with the Democrats. They're just obstructionists, that's all. That's all they're good at is obstructing. They're not good at creating. They're only good at obstructing and wanting open borders and men and women's sports and transgender, all things that transgender for everybody, all things that people don't want. And they're obstructionists. They're doing that with health care. We have a great health care proposal where we pay all of the hundreds of billions of dollars that the insurance companies have been making. Their stock is up 1,700%. And by the way, the stock market today hit another high. 52 times we hit a high in a 10-month period. That's during my second presidency. And it's been amazing. Nobody's seen anything like it. We had the greatest economy in history in my first term. I think we're blowing it away right now. I think we're blowing it away. And again, prices were the highest they ever were. Inflation was the highest in 48 years, or I think ever. They say 48 years. The press says 48 years. I'll accept that, but I think it was the highest inflation we've ever had under the past administration. We had the highest prices. We have high inflation, you have high prices. Prices are coming way down. Energy's coming way down. Gasoline is hitting now $1.99 in a couple of states, and it's way down. Gasoline is way down. And when gasoline and energy comes down, everything follows. But prices are coming down, and we have an unbelievable economy. 401ks are setting a record. 401ks that's owned by a lot of people because they're based on the stock market. And the stock market for his 52nd time has just hit a brand new high. So it's amazing what's happening. And I will say this, our country is respected again. I think we're respected like never before. The United States is respected again. We have a country that was a dead country 1 year ago, dead. And now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can call.
My man, always dishing it out. All right, so Jasmine Crockett, welcome to the national stage where your dumb stuff is definitely going to be checked.
I challenge somebody to go and find a clip of a Democrat invoking violence.
Let's extinguish him for good. I will go and take Trump out tonight.
We take him to the mud and choke him out.
There needs to be unrest in the streets.
I'm going to punch these sons of in the mouth by taking behind the gym and beat the hell out of them.
Now punch back, kick back.
Kick them when they're down because they deserve it.
I think that you punch.
I'd literally fight any of those people if they tried. Look, we abbreviated the rebuttals here because there's about 2 minutes of them, but the Republican Party laying waste to this radical nut, this squad member whose seat was just eliminated, by the way, in Texas, and now the hopeful Senate candidate who seeks to end her party's decade-long losing streak on the backs of Beto O'Rourke in statewide elections. Shawn Farash, host of Ungoverned on LFA TV and Newsmax contributor Kay Smythe. Shawn, if they want to fight that bad, they should probably, I don't know, maybe at least start going to the gym?
Yeah, maybe adopt that healthier lifestyle. The soy, I hear, is not something that you want to be consuming in excess if you're looking to win fights. Look, I don't like violence. I'd rather there not be violence, right? But there's no two ways about it when you go back to looking at what Democrats have said over the course of the last couple of years, specifically about Trump, about his supporters.
He got
not
shot
just
in the ear.
The labeling. Yeah, I mean, not just the labeling of him as a Nazi, but the whole idea of fighting and punching and Maxine Waters and all that. Yeah, they're the ones who are pushing violence.
Yeah, exactly. And while they backstroke in the estrogen ocean. Kay, President Trump making it super clear that he no longer wants immigrants from the third world. Roll this.
Why can't we have some people from Norway, Sweden, just a few? Let us have a few. From Denmark, do you mind sending us a few people? Send us some nice people, do you mind? But we always take people from Somalia, places that are a disaster.
I mean, he's not wrong. And also, like, they're like, oh, well, you know, we need more minor. White people are 8% of the world's population.
Well, I didn't know that we were such a minority. That makes me feel even more special, and I'm going to dine out on those bragging rights. And yeah, for everyone listening at home who may have relatives in one of the countries that Trump just mentioned, I got to say, as an immigrant here myself, I have never had a better, smoother, cleaner immigration process than under Donald Trump. I had the same thing happen when I went for my O1 visa. When I was here in I think it was like 2019, I think, something like that, when I renewed. And I just got a green card approved in 6 months. It usually takes people years. So when you play by the rules, and the rules are very clear, Republicans set it out very easily. When you play by those rules, you can come here easily, you can prosper, you can contribute enormously to the GDP of this country, and it's something that everyone should be proud of, because Americans aren't going to other countries and doing that same thing. Right. Everyone wants to come here for a reason.
Exactly. And speaking of coming here, Shawn, next year the U.S. is going to host football, actually soccer, the World Cup. I mean, how's this for irony, though? They're doing it during this massive Pride Week. We're going to have gay stuff everywhere, and Egypt and Iran are going to square off in Seattle on the 26th because they ban gay stuff in their countries.
That might be the only game of the World Cup I actually watch, because I am not a soccer fan, and I take a lot of heat for not being a soccer fan.
I'm not
I think
either.
It's a sissy sport, and I say that, hey, you know what? They're great athletes, they're great runners, but you know, there's like not any scoring, and there's a lot of flopping, and like all of them took LeBron James acting classes, and you know, Donald Trump bounced back from getting shot in the ear. Some of these guys get coughed on, and they go flying across the field like something crazy happened. But I'm looking forward to these two teams who I think homosexuality in both countries is illegal. To play each other in the Pride game. Well done, guys. I mean, a little bit of irony maybe makes the sport attractive.
Yeah. No, Kay, last 20 seconds to you.
No, I think this is hilarious, and I completely agree with Shawn. I think that football is a game of hairdos, and I don't get how they play it. That's probably why they freak out so much when they get hit, because it messes up their hair, and they're going to have a complete panic. Maybe every football game should be played during Pride Week. I don't know. There's a lot of parallels there. Yeah. I'm just a social scientist, though. What do I know?
What do you know? All right. We were going to get to Bad Bunny, but we're out of time. Shawn, Kay, I keep my job again. Another week in a row. All right. Coming up, Canadians are outraged over federal overreach. That sounds familiar. What one province is doing about it next.
Newsmax.
Shoots it straight. No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think. Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax. Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think. They let me decide.
Real news for real people.
Hi, I'm Wade Allen Root, the national TV and radio host known as the MAGA warrior and the capitalist evangelist. This presidency is ushering in the golden age of prosperity, and it's all built around making America the energy capital of the world. Enter Lost Soldier Oil and Gas. It took 40 years to piece together this 40,000-acre giant gas discovery. It's estimated to contain up to 6 trillion cubic feet of gas, with a management forecast projecting the first 25 wells alone to produce 400 million cubic feet per day of natural gas. This is how we power the AI future of America, with clean natural gas. Headed by oil and gas legend Mark Bruner, whose previous public companies delivered spectacular returns for investors. At their peaks, Pedico Energy grew about 100 to 1 for investors. Ultra Petroleum grew about 1,000 to 1 for investors. To learn more about Lost Soldier Oil and Gas, scan the QR code on the screen or go to lostsoldier.com. That's lostsoldier.com.
It's the Blue Compass RV annual Blue Tag Clearance. Save over 40% on select new RVs during our largest sale of the year. Plus, every RV comes with a 1-year VIP membership to RV Complete, a $5,000 value. Visit us online or in store today.
Derriere, caboose, booty, badunkadunk. No matter what you call it, if you have hemorrhoids, your tushy is no laughing matter. So don't use a cream that treats your rear end like a joke. Get serious relief with Recticare Advanced Hemorrhoidal Cream. Recticare Advanced is seriously effective with 2 powerful medicines for rapid dual-action relief, soothing the uncomfortable swelling, itching, and pain of your hemorrhoids. For serious hemorrhoid relief for your buns, get Recticare Advanced.
They killed her brother. They shot her dog. And they took her hostage for 400 days. and terrifying nights. They raped her. They put guns to her head. They starved her. These are the stories of Israeli women attacked by Hamas. If you are supporting Hamas and radicalized Palestinians, this is what you are supporting. Choose freedom, not terror.
We're talking to people today about investments. Let's see if we can get somebody. Excuse me, sir. Do you have a retirement account?
I do. I'm invested in some annuities.
Fixed income? How is that?
It was better a few years ago. Each year, it buys less and less, barely keeping up.
That's where gold can make a difference. Unlike fixed payouts, gold rises with inflation, so you're not stuck with a low fixed payment.
So gold isn't stuck in the past like my annuity?
Don't let inflation erode your retirement savings. Invest in gold. Invest with Noble Gold Investments.
These days, supporting the right causes matters more than ever. That's why I chose Patriot Mobile. They're not just a great mobile service provider, they're all about giving back. Every bill helps support causes we believe in: family, faith, and freedom. You get great nationwide coverage on all three main networks. Even better, you're doing it with an American company that stands up for us. It's time to make the switch, y'all. Let's support a wireless company that's got our back. Go to patriotmobile.com and make the switch today.
Why would we pay $200 billion a year in subsidies to Canada when they're not a state? You do that for a state, but you don't do that for somebody else's country. So I think Canada is going to be a very serious contender to be our 51st state.
And they lost their mind, okay? Could parts of Canada, though, become the 51st state of the Union? I mean, is he that far off? Let's think about this. The people of the Canadian province of Alberta appear to be super fed up with the new Canadian government, and they're pushing for independence in one area, especially this guy, Mark Carney, was voted in as their new PM, and he is awful. Okay, keep in mind, Alberta is considered like the Texas of Canada. They are way more conservative, way more limited government, and produce the overwhelming amount of the country's commodities, like timber and oil and a bunch of other stuff. So the federal government of Canada is just like basically pooping their pants because they realize that they can't fund any of their big government programs without the revenue from the resources of that area. Cameron Davies, the leader of the Republican Party of Alberta and also one of the people helping lead the charge for Alberta's independence. Dude, I really hope this goes through.
We do too. We're working hard, convincing hearts and minds. For far too long, we've been held hostage by the Ottawa elites. Mm-hmm. And it's time for that relationship to end. It's abusive, it's toxic, we want out. Texas was a great republic, Alberta's going to be a great republic as well.
But you guys, you produce the oil, you produce timber, you are the production center, ironically more conservative there, and yet you have the liberal coastal elites being like, no, you guys owe us all this stuff. They consume, you produce, and you said, stop taking my guns, I got to defend myself against polar bears, and now you're out.
For far too long, we've been taken advantage of. We've paid the bills. And we've been treated like second-class citizens, you know, taxation without representation. Two votes in Alberta have the same weight as one vote in Nova Scotia. It's time for that to end. We have unfair representation, we pay the bills, and we're tired of our rights being trampled on, whether that be from COVID to Second Amendment, which we don't have yet, but we're going to fight for that.
Right.
Our firearms rights, protecting yourself, your family. The Republican Party of Alberta believes in faith, family, and freedom, and we're going to fight for that every step of the way.
And what everybody talks about, you know, these things happening. We've even had states want to like join other states and things like that here in America, but it never actually happens. What are the odds this actually happens?
I can tell you it will happen. There are only two ingredients. There are only two ingredients for independence, and that's will of the people and international recognition. Albertans will fight for their independence. We will vote for independence, and as soon as we vote for that independence, we need nations like the United States, like our friends and allies and freedom-loving countries all around the world to recognize our independence as an independent republic.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, let me tell you, the United States of Carl will recognize that immediately. All right, but you're not the only ones. All of a sudden, you make all this noise, and you're like, and all these other people are like, hey, wait, we produce stuff too, and we pay a ton of taxes that don't go back to our thing. Saskatchewan, a group is also meeting to, look for their own independence. They lose you guys in Saskatchewan, it's over for Canada.
We'll bring Saskatchewan along with us. They're just like Albertans,
yeah.
And we have so much in common. They're like our little brother to the east, and we'll take them along with us.
Yeah, I mean you're talking about Montreal and places like that going to be totally screwed. Real quick, leftists here in the U.S. they praise Canada's healthcare system, but we just saw a woman that she had basically like an endocrine problem and couldn't get an appointment, so they recommended suicide. It's like, this is your model for national. No wonder you guys want to leave.
We hear about this more often amongst Canadian veterans. And as you know, I'm a U.S. Marine. We hear this from veterans all the time in Canada. They go for medical treatment and they're asked the question, well, have you considered MAID, which is medically assisted suicide?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, correct. So since 2016, 76,000 Canadians have been euthanized.
It's cheaper than healthcare.
This is euthanasia on a mass scale, and it's targeting hardworking Canadians that have contributed to society, and they're being told, you know what, instead of healthcare, have you considered dying?
No.
and so we're at a cultural difference with the rest of Canada on this.
It is. That to me is intolerable. But Cameron Davies, I wish you the best of luck. I'm here for you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
All right. I hope this happens. Coming up, at what point are we just going to understand that immigration without assimilation is an invasion? Where do we draw the line with other people's religion and our laws? Next.
What do you say? I love you. And I'm alive. Eric was a 50 cal gunner. He wanted to help his fellow soldiers. And he served a total of 4 years. What? Twice, yeah, he did two tours in Iraq. He was hit by an armor-piercing round, right above his right ear, exited above his left ear.
They served with honor, and now it's our turn to help them. Join Wounded Warrior Project. Call or go online with your gift of just $19 a month to help America's injured warriors get the life-changing care they need.
Eric wanted a family so bad. That's the hardest thing when he looks at me and he says, when am I going to get married? He's so severely injured, he can't have his own kids. And he's not mad about it, but he's sad sometimes.
He's been through a tough life, and he's come through smiling.
Warriors like Eric need to know that we won't leave them behind. Our donors help us provide life-changing programs and services at no cost to warriors. Please call or go online with your gift of $19 a month, and we'll send you this blanket honoring the 250th anniversary of American independence and freedom.
Wounded Warrior Project, they have not forgotten the sacrifice that our family did.
They still know we're here. That means so much to me, because this is never over.
All the donors who keep believing in Eric, I can't put in words how much it means to him.
Thank you, he says.
The need is urgent. Please give a little to those who gave so much for us.
A better heart health supplement. That's what we all want. That's why for 8 years now, I've relied on this heart powder. It's Super Beats, and I swear by it.
Super Beats is the original #1 selling beet brand for healthy blood pressure support. The only cardiologist-recommended beet brand that's also trusted by over 40 national championship-winning pro and college sports teams for cardio-powered energy.
For cardio results you can feel, the only brand I trust is Super Beats.
Find out how to get a free month with your first order at livehuman.com.
Think of all the places that could expose you to identity theft. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points per second and quickly alerts you if we detect any suspicious activity, like changes to your investment accounts, home title, or new loans in your name. All through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that could make all the difference. LifeLock, for the threats you can't control.
Why is it that the immigrants that seem to complain the most about a country they once begged to get into? People like Ilhan
of these
Omar,
things are happening in isolation.
People like another Somali immigrant who just hates America, who, by the way, Tom Homan has now opened up an investigation into marrying her brother. She seems to think that America will just bend to the Somalis' will. Immigration without assimilation, though, is an invasion. I think it's time we have this conversation. Are Muslim immigrants prioritizing their religious commitments over our laws? If so, we need to consider on whether or not that religion is masquerading as a political ideology instead. What I mean by this is, do we need to reclassify certain aspects of Islam, like Sharia or whatever, political ideology? It's no longer a religion if they take it over our laws. If you want to practice your religion or your Sharia or whatever, fine. But when you start to implement things like that Sharia here and ignore American laws and our traditions and our standards, it doesn't conform with our First Amendment and steps outside the bounds of the protection of it. And we in America need to redefine that. I mean, let's play this out with any other topic. Can I just claim my guns are my religion, which they basically are, and then just absolve myself of any other gun restrictions or laws under the First Amendment of religious protections? No, of course not. So maybe it's time we have that conversation about the extreme aspects of Islam. Ashley Brasfield, reporter for the Daily Caller, Nick Fondacaro, associate editor for MRC Newsbusters. All right, so Ashley, do we have that conversation? How do we do it?
Yeah, I think it's time to have the politically incorrect conversation, like you just said, Carl. I mean, we're talking about specifically with the Somalis here, and Ilham Omar has come to defend a lot of these people that have gone over to Syria, have joined ISIS, and even her Somali community. Well, guess what? You are in America. You're an American citizen. You're Americans. You're not a Somali community, in my opinion, at that point. But you're exactly right. Sharia law, in a lot of ways, it overtakes constitutional law. This country was founded on Christian principles, and that's something that a lot of people overlook. We go back to the 1990s even, and we saw, the incident with Black Hawk Down. Well, a lot of the funding that went on those weapons and towards the warlords that actually happened during that incident was coming from where? Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. So that's what we're dealing with here. So whose genius idea was it to bring the people into this country? During that time period anyway.
Right. Not to mention that we also funded Al-Qaeda during the Cold War to fight off the Russians. So
and not to mention we're also funding the Taliban still.
Still $40 million a week, I think we're giving to them. But Nick, this is another thing. I raise this concern because the culture it's created, where you have 42% of Somalis are on SNAP benefits, which the Democrats say is not happening, and like 90% of Somali households are receiving at least one form of some aid.
I just want to thank you, Carl, for bringing this up and having this conversation, because this is something that is not happening in the liberal elitist media. You're pointing to these numbers. They're going to try to claim that they're false. And basically what we need to do is make sure people assimilate. And especially if a group of people are going to come here, you need to try to become part of the society. And the media needs to have a role in this too, because even elements of the media are going along with it. You had CNN earlier last year, basically when they were in that defamation suit against Zachary Young, they tried to cite Sharia law to say that Zach was breaking Sharia law and trying to get women out of Afghanistan. And luckily, the judge threw it out at the time and said, no, you can't cite this foreign law to say that he was trying to break this, to say that he was committing crimes. No, you can't do that.
No, and that's the conversation we need to have. It's uncomfortable for a lot of people because nobody wants to offend anybody anymore. I'll do it, though. I'm happy to do it. Ashley, Nick, we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, before we go, oh, yes, Thursday, time to share how the internet has roasted me throughout the rest of the week. Comments for Carl. Next, don't miss it.
Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about YRefi. Did you know that as an accredited investor, when you invest in YRefi, your interest rate is fixed? And did you know that you can invest from 1 to 5 years and you can spread your investment over those terms to best suit your needs? And you have the freedom to take your monthly interest income or reinvest it, whatever you choose. When you invest in YRefi, your interest is calculated daily, you're paid monthly, and should you need your money back early, there is a liquidity feature. Would you like more information? All you have to do is call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST, or log on to investyrrefi.com. That's investyrrefi.com for complete details. And make sure you review the private placement memorandum and scan this QR code to view the disclosure at your leisure. YRefi, investing in America's future.
I was tired of sitting on the sidelines. Now, thanks to Jointivia, I'm back in the swing of things. Wait, $70 for a refill?
You gotta try Single Care. Just look up your prescription, show the coupon at the pharmacy, and save.
Really?
Really. Single Care crushes the cost of my prescription, almost as much as I'm crushing Chad.
Unbelievable. See why more people are saving with Single Care. Common side effects include shockingly lower prices, excessive fist bumps, and humbling guys named Chad.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time.
Radical jihadists are not done. Iran promises death to America. They've built sleeper terror cells in the U.S. They support terror groups out to destroy Israel, including Hamas, whose founding charter calls for Islam to dominate the world.
The young people have been educated to believe that the most sacred thing they do is stab a Christian in the heart.
The only democracy in the Middle East that supports religious freedom is Israel. Standing for freedom, not terror.
A mesothelioma diagnosis is overwhelming, but you don't have to go through it alone. Our firm is exclusively dedicated to only serving mesothelioma victims and their families. With decades of success, our team of nurses and attorneys will fight for the compensation and care you deserve. We'll even come to you. This is our MesoCare promise. Call us now so you can focus on what matters most.
Call now and we'll come to you for a free consultation. Call 800-600-3850 or go to mesobook.com.
There are only a few men I'd trust with my life. Two of them built this wallet. I've known the guys behind Proof for nearly 20 years, and we've been through hell and back together. When they told me they were building the wallet, I just said, bill me now, I'm in. This isn't some fashion piece. This isn't just some trend. These wallets are a direct reflection of the kind of men who built it. It's built to last, built to function, and designed to carry everything you need and more. If anything happens to it, they'll take care of it. No questions, no fine print. If you knew the guys who created this wallet, you wouldn't carry anything else. Go check them out, because they built this thing right.
All right, it's Thursday. We're back with another comments for Carl. All right, we had some doozies this week. All right, KG, whose pinned tweet is an endorsement of Obama, by the way, says Carl is butthurt because he knows that Somalis are better than him. K. Anyway, we'll go to the next one. All right, in response to something that apparently offended somebody with low testosterone, Carl says that he is caked in stage makeup fresh off his Botox injections. We had to bleep it out. You may want to consult your esthetician. I know you have one about those bags under your eyes. Pretty boy. I didn't even know what I had to ask my female team what an esthetician is. Apparently it's a face doctor. I'm not sure they're a network, but I'll get right on that. Also, this is the only makeup I have. This is the only makeup I have for the whole thing. And the only reason they put it on my face is because the lights will make me shine because I sweat when I get all PO'd about stuff that I'm talking about in my A block. This is also from the guy who I brush my teeth like 5 times a week. You think I'm going to go get Botox? All right. There used to be this thing called men that were concerned about things not like bags under our eyes because we were focused on raising our sons to be warriors and harvesting our food, splitting firewood and building things. Some of us are still focused on that, but you enjoy your estrogen cocktail, friend. Anyway, speaking of estrogen, Philippa says, disappointed. Will no longer view your show after seeing that beautiful buck that you murdered on your hunting trip. No longer will watch your show. Real men do not need to hunt. Don't they pay you enough to go to the grocery store? Actually, yeah, Bob's over sitting here laughing. Actually, real men do hunt. We used to hunt mammoths with spears on the open plain while wearing their hides. Society has produced not very strong men, and those people have convinced people to buy their meat at the store, and that is somehow more civilized, despite the inhumane procedures that goes by mass killing livestock by slapping them into big pads and ramming rebar through their face. But hey, whatever, you do you, Queen. Let's do one more. Lastly, Faye in Taylor Lake Village, Texas. I hear you made it to 92 years old. Happy birthday. Look, there's a 5th book coming out, too. I know you like the books. We just sent you a signed copy today. Bob, I love the people who write into the show, good or bad.
Hilarious. I didn't know you get Botox.
Yeah, every day, man.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do they think meat comes from, anyway?
It's made for the store, Bob.
The store makes it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They know, like, when they go to the butcher, to the farm, they shoot a bolt right into their head.
Yeah.
But that's more humane.
Yeah, no, that's it. Anyway, brother, take it away.
All right, man. Appreciate it, shall we?